There's a war being waged right now, and most people don't even realize they're in it. It's not fought with weapons or armies, but with ideology and fear. On one side stands the global hustle culture, backed by every institution, every influencer, every system designed to extract human energy. On the other side stands a figure so dangerous that his very existence threatens to collapse the entire foundation of modern productivity worship. The person who refuses to hustle but dreams bigger than anyone else. The world's fear of this individual isn't just professional or economic. It's primal, existential, and absolutely terrifying to those who've built their entire identity around the grind. What you're about to discover about why this figure inspires such visceral terror will change how you see everything about work, success, and human potential. If you're ready to understand why refusing to hustle while dreaming big is considered the ultimate act of rebellion in our society, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and tell me in the comments if you've ever felt like the world was trying to force you into patterns that felt completely wrong for your soul. The fear begins with what this figure represents. Proof that the entire hustle ideology is built on a foundation of lies. For decades, we've been sold the story that success requires suffering, that achievement demands sacrifice, that dreams can only be realized through relentless grinding. Then comes someone who looks at this narrative and says simply, "No, thank you." They dream of building empires, creating art, changing the world, but they refuse to destroy themselves in the process. Their very existence poses a question that terrifies the establishment. What if everything we've been taught about success is wrong? The world's fear isn't rational, it's visceral. When people encounter someone who dreams big but refuses to hustle, they experience what psychologists call cognitive dissonance on a massive scale. Their entire worldview begins to crack. If this person can have massive ambitions without grinding 18 hours a day, what does that say about everyone who is grinding themselves into dust? If extraordinary dreams don't require extraordinary suffering, then why are millions of people sacrificing their health, relationships, and happiness for success? But the fear runs deeper than individual psychology. It threatens what we might call the extraction economy, the entire system built around harvesting human energy and attention for profit. Every industry, from education to entertainment, depends on people believing they must constantly strive, constantly improve, constantly do more to be worthy of their dreams. The person who refuses to hustle while dreaming big represents a fundamental threat to this extraction, because they've learned to achieve extraordinary results through wisdom rather than work ethic. What makes this figure even more terrifying is that they often succeed spectacularly. While others burn out from overwork, they build sustainable empires. While others sacrifice relationships for career advancement, they create both professional success and personal fulfillment. While others chase external validation through endless activity, they develop internal confidence that doesn't depend on productivity metrics. Their success exposes the hustle culture as not just unnecessary, but often counterproductive. The world fears this person because they've solved what might be called the energy equation differently than everyone else. Instead of trying to generate more energy through caffeine, motivation, and willpower, they've learned to waste less energy on activities that don't align with their deepest goals. Instead of pushing harder, they've learned to push smarter. Instead of doing more, they've learned to do what matters. This approach threatens every guru, every system, every institution that profits from human exhaustion. Consider how this plays out in different areas of society. In the business world, the person who dreams of building a billion-dollar company but refuses to work 100-hour weeks challenges every assumption about entrepreneurship. They prove that sustainable businesses can be built through strategic thinking rather than manic activity, through quality relationships rather than aggressive networking, through patient capital building rather than desperate funding chases. Their success makes every burned-out entrepreneur question whether their suffering was actually necessary. In the creative world, this figure is equally threatening. They dream of creating masterpieces, of touching millions of lives through their art, of leaving lasting legacies, but they refuse to starve for their craft. They won't sacrifice their health for their art, won't destroy their relationships for their vision, won't accept that creativity requires suffering. When they succeed in creating profound work while maintaining their well-being, they shatter the romantic mythology of the tortured artist that keeps so many creators trapped in cycles of self-destruction. Fear intensifies because this person represents what we might call integrated ambition, the ability to want extraordinary things without becoming desperate for them, to pursue massive goals without losing yourself in the process, to dream big while staying grounded in wisdom rather than swept away by compulsion. This integration threatens a culture built on the assumption that healthy people aren't ambitious enough and ambitious people can't be healthy. What the world finds most disturbing is that this figure has learned to trust something that hustle culture teaches us to ignore: natural rhythms, intuitive timing, organic development. They understand that forcing outcomes often prevents better outcomes from emerging naturally. They know that premature action can destroy opportunities that would flourish with patient cultivation. They've discovered that strategic rest often produces better results than frantic activity. This wisdom makes them unpredictable and uncontrollable, which terrifies systems built on managing human behavior. The fear escalates when we realize that this person has essentially opted out of the competition that keeps everyone else trapped. While others are racing against each other in predetermined lanes, they've discovered that the most valuable prizes aren't even in the race. They're creating new games with different rules, new definitions of success, new ways of measuring achievement. This isn't just personal liberation. It's a fundamental challenge to competitive capitalism as we know. Society responds to this threat through what we might call psychological warfare. The person who refuses to hustle while dreaming big faces constant pressure to justify their approach. They're told they're unrealistic, entitled, lazy, privileged. They're bombarded with messages about the necessity of grinding, the virtue of struggle, the moral superiority of exhaustion. Every movie, every book, every social media post reinforces the narrative that dreams without suffering are worthless, that ease equals weakness, that true achievement requires sacrifice. But perhaps the most insidious aspect of the world's fear is how it creates what we might call hustle peer pressure. People who might naturally operate according to more sustainable rhythms get pulled into frantic activity because they're afraid of being judged, afraid of being left behind, afraid of not measuring up to cultural expectations. The fear isn't just of the person who refuses to hustle. It's of becoming that person and facing society's judgment. The world fears this figure because they represent evidence that human potential operates according to different laws than we've been taught. While hustle culture insists that more input always equals more output, this person demonstrates that the relationship between effort and achievement is far more complex. They show that timing, alignment, strategic patience, and wise action often produce better results than blind persistence and manic effort. What makes this especially threatening is that this approach is actually more sustainable and scalable than hustle culture. The person who refuses to grind while dreaming big often builds systems that work without their constant intervention, creates value that compounds over time, develops skills that improve with age rather than burning out with overuse. Their long-term success makes everyone else's short-term thinking appear not just exhausting but foolish. The fear deepens when we consider the social implications. If enough people discovered that they could pursue their biggest dreams without sacrificing their well-being, what would happen to industries built on human desperation? What would happen to the healthcare system if people weren't destroying their health for success? What would happen to the pharmaceutical industry if people weren't medicating stress-related conditions? What would happen to the self-help industry if people realized they didn't need fixing? The person who refuses to hustle while dreaming big has essentially discovered what we might call authentic productivity, the ability to generate extraordinary results from alignment rather than force, from wisdom rather than willpower, from strategic action rather than constant motion. This threatens every productivity system, every time management technique, every efficiency hack that promises to help people extract more output from the same input. What the world finds most terrifying is that this person often appears to have found something that everyone else is desperately seeking: the ability to pursue meaningful work without losing meaning, to chase big goals without sacrificing inner peace, to be successful without being stressed. They seem to have solved the fundamental dilemma of modern life: how to be ambitious and happy, driven and peaceful, successful and sane. The fear becomes existential when we realize that this figure represents a different relationship with time, energy, and achievement that could transform human civilization. Instead of the frantic, extractive, unsustainable patterns that define modern productivity culture, they offer a model based on natural cycles, strategic patience, and the understanding that true achievement emerges from alignment rather than aggression. But perhaps the deepest fear is this: the person who refuses to hustle while dreaming big proves that we might have been torturing ourselves unnecessarily. They suggest that the suffering we've accepted as inevitable might be optional, that the sacrifices we've made might have been pointless, that the dreams we've abandoned as unrealistic might be more achievable than we thought. They represent the possibility that we've been living according to rules that serve systems rather than souls. The world's terror isn't really about this person's refusal to hustle or even their ambitious dreams. It's about what their success means for everyone else, that there might be a better way to be human, a more sustainable way to achieve, a more fulfilling way to live. They're not just choosing differently. They're proving that different choices are possible. And that proof threatens everything our productivity-obsessed culture has told us about work, worth, and the price of dreams. In a world built on the assumption that extraordinary dreams require extraordinary sacrifice, the person who dreams extraordinarily while living extraordinarily well represents the ultimate subversion. They're not just refusing to play by the rules. They're demonstrating that the rules themselves might be the problem. And that demonstration, more than any argument or ideology, is what the world truly fears about those who dare to dream big while refusing to hustle their souls away.